How do you know when it's time to quit your day job? There's really not one right answer here, but there's a couple things that I see that I question and ask people about when they're making that contemplation. How much success have you had so far in the side hustle? And when I say success, again, this isn't necessarily monetary. And that's a little bit of a gut thing, but spend more time with individuals who are entrepreneurs and people who want to be, and you can definitely tell. And that's what I'll say. People who want to be are a lot of talk, and people who do things show you what they've done with their actions. So that's really a key indicator for me, is that when I'm talking to somebody who's considering kind of leaving the day job to pursue the side hustle, there is evidence, and it's not necessarily, I've been earning X amount of dollars for 3+ years. It's evidence in the actions that they're taking and not the words they're saying. And so that's really where I see first is there evidence by your actions that what is happening inside this side hustle is propelling you forward in a way that will lead to your further success. And so that's factor one. The second thing that I ask is what is the financial stability of your family situation behind the scenes? And for me, as a financial professional, it is easier for me to unpack this in real dollars with individuals than, some people who just guess how much people make. Here's what I'll say. Do not ever think that you understand or know how much money someone earns. One thing I learned very, very long ago was to never judge a book by its cover, because when it comes to money in the grand scheme of our world, there are far more people who have far more money than you might imagine, that you would never know it, because they don't lead with it, but behind the scenes, they have a lot of financial stability that you might be a little bit surprised about. So don't ever judge somebody by how much you think they do or do not make, because it's usually wrong. So when we look at behind the scenes, what is the financial health? What do I mean by that? Well, some things are just practical realities, right? If you have a day job and you're the breadwinner of your family, and you have a family and you have a spouse and you have children, and all of these people are relying upon your day job, you need to at least take a minute to consider whether the all-in jump to the side hustle is the right move for your family. So, don't be so eager to jump into the side hustle that you think is going to make it, without at least taking a step back and understanding that there's probably a runway of time before you make it all, full in to the side hustle as your full-time thing. And so the financial health of your family is important. And so really what I would look for here is, do you have an adequate savings account? Do you have money set aside for 3 to 6 months of this business not actually producing enough money for you to live on? Do you, have, again, a backup plan? Can you go back to a job? Can you jump back in if it's not working out for you? Like, are you employable? Even though most of us who are entrepreneurs would say that, we tend to be unemployable, but, do you have a skill set that could be employed? And or does your spouse have income? And so a lot of times what I'll see is I'll have, both people are working in a family, both taxpayer spouse are both working, but one of them, is fine. They could live on one income. And so really that gives a lot of freedom for the person who wants to go start their own thing to take a little bit more risk, because they know if they buckle down together that they can navigate the next year ahead without having significant income into their family. And then really the reality of the third thing I look at is whether or not this person has enough risk tolerance to understand that anytime you're going to full on jump into a business, you really should expect to not make any reasonable money for a year. Now, most people will tell you that within 3 years, a small business turns a profit. And that may statistically be true. But most people, if they're reasonably successful and good at what they're doing, after a year, they're generally going to be profiting in some way. And when you look at the difference between a W-2 job and all of the deductions that come out of, having a job, when you have all the different taxes and stuff to pay and the take home money versus when you're self-employed. And if you've just pared down your life, the amount of money you actually need to net out of that business in order to make it feel like the same amount of money that you were earning from the day job, they're not the same dollar. Okay. And so if I had $100,000 day job, where I had a, W-2 and I had all these earnings and all that, like you don't need to earn net $100,000 out of a self-employed business in order to feel like you could live the same lifestyle. So there's more to that when you kind of get into the way that small business taxation works and underlying components of it and all the different things that you can integrate into a small business. But just understand that the live dollars, like the take home dollars, don't have to exactly be the same for you to feel like you're living the same lifestyle. So, it's really, if you have an expectation and an understanding that for the foreseeable future, just for a, window of time, you're not going to be expecting to earn money and you're going to live as slim as possible or on savings or on a spouse's income, then I think you could probably easier make that leap to go into all in on the side hustle because you're going to know very quickly if you deviate all of your time and energy into this one thing. And particularly if you've already had some success in doing it like part-time, at night, on the side, on the weekends, whatever you're doing it, then you're going to know very quickly that with all of your time and energy, you can make this thing pop very quickly. And so that's usually what I see. And again, some of this is gut, but I think there's some parts that you can look at. But I will say this, when I'm talking to young or wannabe business owners and entrepreneurs, there is a statistical, I would say, I should maybe keep track of it, but like I do have a statistical gut check of whether or not somebody is going to be a long-term success. And I wish I knew exactly what it is, but there really is just like something different. There's a way that they speak and there's a way that they act. And they operate out of action and intention, not just empty platitudes and like, this sounds like a great idea, or they're so like confused about all the different ways that they're going to make money, or they have like 18,000 ideas and no path forward. There's just something different. So, if you think that what you're doing on the side has a viable way for you to make this your full-time income, and you've kind of gut checked on a couple things, me, I always say go for it. Because most of the time you can probably go back to the job if it really fails spectacularly. But if you're somebody who operates with intention and you operate out of action and not just words, you can do the thing. You can make it happen. You can make growth and a successful business happen right before you. And it's hard work, but everything in life is hard. Okay. So it's not that it's not hard work, but if the drive is there and the action follows the drive, and you're willing to learn and pivot and be humble and just soak up all of the different advice from people who have done the thing ahead of you, not the, haters on the side who aren't going to ever support you because they've never stepped out and taken a risk in their life. The people who have done the thing, look at those people. And I bet they tell you you can do this. Follow what they do, take action steps, and move forward and build the life that you always wanted.